What's going on, everybody? Trip6 here. So, in March, the band Ghost released their new album Impera, and I really love listening to their last album Prequel, so I thought I would give this a listen and give it a review as well. This will be done track by track, so let's just get right into it with their song Imperium. It's a nice intro instrumental track, definitely fitting for the beginning of an album. It starts off with a nice, soft guitar and then slowly builds. And it has a really great addition of dueling guitars, which carry a beautiful melody towards the end. It gives a very melancholic and contemplative sort of vibe. I really found myself thinking about life a little bit while it was playing, and I really enjoy those types of songs. I would say it sets the tone of the album, but then the second track, Kaiserion, kicks in with a very upbeat, major guitar part with some very upbeat, quick drum rhythms. It pretty much remains that way throughout the entire song. The concept is around the advertisement of a wonderful place that's described throughout the song. There are tons of backing vocal tracks throughout the choruses that I really loved. It sort of reminds me of an intro to an action-packed cartoon or anime or something. It just really sort of gives that vibe, just an all-around upbeat kind of song. Then the album goes right into another song called Spillways, and this one starts off with a quick staccato-type piano part that meshes into another upbeat song. This one has a focus on the concept, as I understand it, of basically never being satisfied because we are decaying human beings and our spillways of our soul are always unfulfilled. And it is very on brand of Ghost to have very dark lyrics slapped on top of a very upbeat sounding song. The chorus on this one really reminds me of their song called Rats off their previous album, Prequel. Very harmonious, open backing vocals sliding from one familiar note to another. So this is one I really enjoyed. Now the fourth track on the album, Call Me Little Sunshine, starts off with a clean guitar track sort of similar to the one featured in Imperium. It's a really great, classic kind of riff that's repeated throughout the song. Intros, verses, choruses, it always seems to be there. It starts off pretty softly, then gets very distorted once the drums and the other instruments really kick in. The lyrics are built from the first-person perspective of Mephistopheles, who apparently is a demon in German folklore. I always love it when bands and artists do this. When they really give that kind of depth into their lyrics and concepts, it's always super cool and interesting to me. The concept is that Mephistopheles is trying to convince the listeners to call out to him in their time of need. It's also a fairly dynamic song in which the verses are quite soft before the choruses come, which are pretty heavy. The thing I like most about the song is definitely the super interesting lyrics and the concept. So the next track is called Hunter's Moon. It kicks off with a very brief clean guitar part before the vocals, anticipatory drums, and the very prominent bass line steal the show, so to speak, in the first verse. The lyrical concept is a bit harder to decipher in this one. From what I gathered, it's about a person who is haunted by past memories and is yearning to see his dead sister again. This is another song that sort of builds as it goes on, starting fairly emptier and then growing with more parts. The song also features a choir in the background about midway through the song before a guitar solo and at the very end. And I always love hearing choirs mixed in with heavier music, giving it that sort of epic vibe. So it's a pretty heavy track overall, and I think that the way it builds up as it progresses really adds to that. Wrapping up the first half of the album, the sixth track is called Watcher in the Sky. The lyrical concept here is rooted in the idea that everybody on Earth is seeking answers about their own very nature that they can't answer, such as where do I come from, what am I here to do, etc. So they're seeking the watcher in the sky to answer these questions, hinting very obviously towards a creator of some sort. It starts off with a very eerie, kind of open space doomsday sound before it kicks right in with the first verse. So something about these guitar parts, they aren't as groovy and spacious as they have been in previous songs. It's really a different kind of style of song. Instead, the guitar is really quickly and rhythmically chugged while sirens play in the background. It gives a very different yet very heavy sort of feel. Throughout the song, you can tell they really decided to make the instrumental parts the main focus of the song as opposed to the vocals. This is because the vocal parts don't really take up nearly as much time as they did in the previous songs, which is quite a departure so far in the album. Also, the outro for the song is over a minute and a half long, with the same vocal line being repeated as the guitar in the background runs totally wild with this technical sweeping part as the audio fades away. I did enjoy the addition of the sirens and the heavy guitar chugging throughout. It really delivered kind of a shake-up track for the album. Now, as many bands do in certain places of their studio albums, Ghost went ahead and added an interlude track after Watcher in the Sky called Dominion. It is a minute and 22 seconds long and void of any instruments and vocals aside from what sounds like an organ. It's very melancholic. And I won't lie, I really didn't personally enjoy it, nor do I think it really added anything to the album itself. So I understand the purpose of short interlude tracks, but I didn't really think this added anything to the sequence of the songs or enhanced the album really in any way for that matter. Now, track number 8 is one called 20s, and it is for sure my favorite song on this album. The concept is centered around everybody basically revolting and taking power from those who have it. There's some really funny lyrics in this one. For example, and I quote, "We'll be grabbing them all by the hoo-haws." The entire song sounds like a show tune in a way, almost comically so. It starts out with what sounds like an old school band with brass and woodwind instruments, and then it kicks in with a pretty gnarly drum fill followed by a chugging guitar riff. Then, during the verses, it maintains a very eerie vibe with a primal sounding drum part and low vocals. I almost envision this being recorded in a fogged out cemetery, just really spooky. Towards the end, before the final chorus, there's a brief climbing guitar solo which sounds really sick, and then it returns right back to the spooky vibe it always had. So I really enjoy everything about this song. After that, there's a song called Darkness at the Heart of My Love. This one is a ballad, the lyrics of which describe what motivates the love the narrator has for somebody, indicating that darkness at the center of it that's described is a good thing. Now, I can't be sure, but given the theme of Ghost throughout their albums being one of sort of a left-hand philosophy, so to speak, I believe this is based on the literary Dark Lord's passion for convincing humanity to follow him. It starts out with a clean guitar, fingerpick style, and a clean singing voice with whispers in the background. The verses almost sound like they could be something Simon and Garfunkel would write. The choruses feature a higher register voice with more instruments involved, though the extent to which how many instruments is a lot more stripped down as opposed to previous songs on the album. Towards the end, during the final chorus, they interestingly added a crowd singing the words in the background, and it almost kind of reminded me of something you'd hear at like a Southern Baptist church during a worship service. It's definitely the most stripped down song on the album. They did make it work though. I do enjoy this one. The 10th song on the album is called Griftwood. It's sort of similar to Darkness at the Heart of My Love in that it's about convincing somebody to follow them and how there will be such great things if they choose to do so, such as an end to their suffering, etc. This one, however, is a lot more on the nose about who is wanting them to be convinced. There's a line in the song that goes, "You want to console the griever, you want to guide the believer, you and the greatest deceiver." So he's obviously talking about selling yourself to the devil and working alongside him. Throughout the song, the drums and guitar parts sounded like they could have been ripped off of an 80s rock album. Just very sonic drums, and the guitar riffs and the guitar chords really kind of gave off an 80s rock vibe. There's also an awesome element of piano that they added about midway through the song, and the combination of the piano mixed with the vocals and all the rest, it really kind of makes you feel like you're floating above the sky, everything's serene, and that is right before a killer guitar solo just comes in and sweeps the show away. And again, it's very 80s rock-like. The whole song is just generally kind of retro and very upbeat in nature. Now, the second to last song on the album is called Bite of Passage, and it's actually another interlude track, just like Dominion was, except this one lasts just over 30 seconds. It's one brief, clean, and dark guitar tune that repeats itself throughout the course of the 30 seconds with a little bit of space in between each one. Somehow, it gets creepier as it goes on. I can't really explain why. I don't really feel like they added anything as the song goes, but it just gets creepier. Now, unlike the previous interlude track, Dominion, in my opinion, this one definitely serves a purpose for its placement. So everything was very upbeat in the previous track. This is going to be the indicator that there's something not so upbeat boiling into fruition, and it's placed here because once you hear the final track on the album, well, you'll understand why. All that aside, I really do also just love the overall vibe this interlude track gives. It's very creepy and suspenseful, and I think because of how simple it is and its ability to deliver that vibe in such a short amount of time, It was very, very well done. And now for the final song on the album, Respite on the Spidal Fields. This song is centered around the theme of a post-apocalyptic journey. Judging from the lyrics, it appears that the great battle of Armageddon had just happened, the Messiah had returned, he had taken all of his followers away with him and had left the earth in shambles, with those who were left now in possession of it confused on what to do next. It starts off with not a happy guitar part nor an angry or sad one, but sort of neutral, if that makes any sense. Now, the chorus is a bit heavier, but not by much. It's all very much surrounded by the concept of acceptance, like whatever just happened, how bad it was, whatever, we accept our new reality, we accept that it happened. And that is very much the theme in play during this song, I think. And this track does an excellent job at taking you through those emotions with the various different musical elements throughout. And at the very end of this song, it returns to the exact same riff you hear in Imperium, the first track of the album. I think that's such a cool thing to do because it brings the album full circle at the end, fading into nothingness. So that pretty much sums up Ghost's new album, Impera. I think it's honestly a really solid album for the most part, though I don't really care all that much for Dominion or Watcher in the Sky. Now, I don't hate Watcher in the Sky. As a matter of fact, there are elements of that song that I love, like the sirens, the chugging guitar, etc. But the vocals on that one just didn't really land all that well for me. I just feel like there was more to be desired in that realm. And Dominion, again, don't really see why it was placed there, nor was it really pleasing to the ear in really any way, shape, or form. It's just kind of basic chords being played on an organ for a minute and a half. But aside from those criticisms, pretty great album overall. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. Alright everyone, that is it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys like what you saw, please go ahead and drop a like, hit subscribe button down below, and go ahead and let me know in the comments what you all thought of Impera. I will see you in my next video.